Hi, Misha here, and it's about that time again for another Blackbox. This one, in the rain. It was thundering a bit earlier, but seems like after the rain started, the thunder passed through. It's actually quite a nice temperature out. Yeah, I've been a little busy, and hadn't had time to make videos much for this channel. And haven't really had any new Hobby Master models or Master replicas. So nothing that came in that I just felt like, hey, I've got to talk about this right here, right now. You know what I mean? And this channel is just for fun when I feel like something. I don't really hold to a schedule on here. It's just whenever interesting things happen. Probably will have another cabin update video pretty soon. Made a decent amount of progress since the last one. Had more than a little bit of excitement on YouTube. On the Mishaco channel, there was the whole comments getting turned off incident that started on a Tuesday. And I'm trying to think how to say this and not... I'm trying to think how to convey what I'm feeling. When it happened, a lot of people said, oh, it's YouTube going after the gun community, the 2A community. I never really thought so. And I was right. It was a glitch. It was actually a glitch due, and I don't know the details. I don't really, it's not my bag. But it had to do with some new guidelines and guardrails YouTube has been putting in to try to prevent people from using AI-generated art illegally. It's a whole thing. Anyway, when they did that, it somehow a wire got crossed. Heck, if you've done programming, you know how that is absolutely believable. It's not that I wouldn't say YouTube would go against the gun community or any other community that's considered a little more fringe or controversial. It's just usually when they do, they tell us. We'll get an email, and like for any video that doesn't get monetization, we'll get an email. At the very least, when you go into the video manager in YouTube, there's a section. Like recently I did that video on the McFarlane Dune figures, and because I used a few clips of Don't Fear the Reaper, it immediately said, hey, this isn't eligible for monetization because of, copyright on the music. They tell us. You don't have to agree with it. Doesn't mean I always do, but they're pretty straightforward. And it was just peculiar. Like, why leave the video up? Why even give full monetization, ad revenue, but then turn off the comments section? I'm sorry, but my comments section isn't exactly a hotbed of anarchy or fermenting weird things. We're all kind of pretty tame and civil around here on this channel and the main one, so it just didn't make a lot of sense. And like I said, I noticed it Tuesday evening. I had put up a video Sunday evening on Mishaco and it was fine. And it actually got progressively worse Wednesday and Thursday. A few more videos got hit that had been up for a while. But then Friday afternoon, I tried Friday morning, it still wasn't working. But then Friday afternoon, when I went in yet again and flicked the switch to turn on comments, it actually stayed flicked on. It was almost like tripping a breaker. You ever mess with breakers, where you go in and a breaker gets tripped and you turn it on and then it immediately gets tripped back off again? It was a lot like that. YouTube would let me flip little comments and it would say it was saved, but then 5 minutes later it get tripped again. So, I'll be honest, I am happy to report that it wasn't YouTube starting a whole new level of restrictions and, I don't know, discrimination? Is that what we want to call it? So that was actually good. I'm not gonna complain about good news. And I'll be honest, this past Friday when that actually, it was kind of one of those good days. It was raining much like today, so I was stuck indoors. But it's just kind of one of those days when everything was coming up Millhouse, you know what I mean? And then this weekend, I launched the new sort of Misha AK World channel. It's something that I've had in the back of my mind for a while, because I end up getting asked the same AK related questions over and over and over, and that's okay. As a former teacher, I know what that's like. But it also didn't seem like it was a good idea to keep making the same exact video over and over on Mishaco. So I thought, one, I can make a secondary AK dedicated channel where if I need to answer, hey, which AK should I buy this year? Or hey, which is better? Or hey, what are your thoughts on this or that? I can make another video, a new fresh video with up-to-date info, but not clutter the main Mishaco channel. And I thought maybe if I put all my AK videos in one spot and then, you know, set them up with categories or playlists rather, like Russian, Poland, whatever, maybe like by caliber, maybe people could find stuff easy, because, you know, on this channel we have over 1,100 videos. On the main Mishaco channel, it's over 1,400. And I also kind of wanted to do reruns, you know. There are certain guns, like for example the WBP Fox or Jack, that even though I've done plenty of videos covering them, there's new information, updates so that's fine. But other videos, like for example the Romanian Wasser 1063, those haven't been imported in a decade. So the video I did 4 or 5 years ago is as up to date as it'll ever probably be, unless something radically changes. So that's actually why I launched that channel with that one video. I don't know, seemed like a good place to start, why not? But regardless, I have been posting a couple of videos a day. At first I thought, oh, I'll just post all my AK videos. And I picked about 100 out of my archive, most of which I have higher quality backups than are on the Mishaco channel. So that's good. They should have a little higher res by default. But then I realized, okay, I started the new channel, did the approval with, you know, verify the code. But then I realized until you go to like the advanced options, it limits you to only uploading 4 or 5 videos a day, or however it's set up. Actually, in the very beginning, it's still set to only up to 15-minute uploads. Well, then you go first level of verification, and then the next one. So I actually had to have my wife photograph my ID and send it via QR code to YouTube so they could verify that I'm a real person and over 18. And it's all kind of an offshoot of anti-bot stuff. Remember a couple of years ago there were all those bots running around, and I will admit it does seem to be working. There are still bots, but at least you don't get the, hey, you won a free blah blah blah, or you're the contest winner, email me here, blah blah blah. At least those seem gone. At least I haven't noticed them. Maybe my spam filter is just knocking them out. I don't know. So at least there's something to be said, because those are very annoying. And speaking of YouTube, kind of a hidden reason for me doing the Misha AK World channel, it's an experiment. I've read on a few YouTube sites that claim to know how the algorithm works that old channels don't get promoted. And Mishaco it's an old channel. I started it back in spring of 2011. Yeah, even this one I started 6 years ago. So I'm curious, is that real or is that kind of BS? So let's start a new channel. AK videos are my probably most asked about popular gun videos. So I thought if anything's gonna grab attention, grab traction, it would be those. And again, with the other reasons I outlined, it does make sense and even kind of provide community service, I hope. So right now, I've only put up, I think, 8 videos. I'm posting 2 to 3 a day. I just started Sunday evening, so hey. But I'm hoping within a few weeks to have about 100 videos up. And I have already recorded 2 fresh videos for that channel, even if they're kind of answering the same questions. And so that's what I plan on doing. I'll probably put up 1 fresh video a week and then list a couple older videos every day, hopefully a higher res. Might be editing them just a little bit if something needs doing, you know, trying to remaster them, as you were. And it's also a nice backup, a nice bulwark if something happens to the main Mishaco channel or whatnot. But it is an experiment. It costs me essentially a weekend's worth of work. I won't be able to monetize it for a while because of how things are going. But, you know, I'm going to experiment with it, see if there's any validity to the claims, and, you know, go from there. Because, you know, I said earlier in Blackboxes, didn't really know what I was going to do. I've kind of set a goal for myself. The Mishaco channel, it's at 75k subs. I'm going to push on however long it takes and do what I can to hit 100k. And then see what happens at that point. If nothing else, it's just like a personal thing. I just, you know, I'm not going to quit three-fourths of the way through. That's not my personality. At the same time, I have to be true to myself. I'm not going to make videos that, yeah, they might get a lot of attention, they might get a lot of views, but not videos I could be proud of. Essentially, I make videos that either make me laugh or that I would have enjoyed when I was 10, 20 years younger, if that makes sense. And that's my personality, my mind. I'm an in-depth person, so that's just how it goes. And yeah, I do wish my cadence, I wish I could talk a little faster, but I find if I try to push myself to really talk really, really fast, I start kind of, you know, tripping over my words and I can't find the right word, or if I'm going through the math in my head, I can't quite get the math done right, or I fuck up and say things wrong, and then it's bad, and then editing, and man, there's nothing worse than a ton of jump cuts. That's even more distracting than a slow cadence to me. Now, when I'm in front of the camera, probably because I'm more relaxed and focused, I can usually talk a little faster. So I'm going to try to do that more. I prefer to be in front of the camera, leaving the camera work to someone else. I think that's just in everyone's best interest. But because of COVID, and then just not having a lot of time or help, you know, it was either me to the camera or just no videos. And I figured a less than perfect video is better than nothing at all. Hope that was right figure. We will see. But because I've been kind of busy with that, and because I really don't have any new models or anything right this moment, yeah, I just haven't been posting much over here, but it will change. The cabin will, I think, free me up to think more and even kind of share cabin living with people. There are plenty of those kinds of channels on YouTube, but you know what? I doubt there's one of a blind guy living in a cabin alone. That's got to be worth something, right? And the rain continues. Slackened off a bit, but gonna be a soggy day, I suppose. I don't know, anything else going with you guys? It's not that I've been bored or without things to do. I don't know. It's definitely not that I'm sad. I've actually been in better spirits the last couple of months than usual. So it's not that. Just kind of feeling quiet lately. I don't know. Maybe it's my body resting up because the second half of this year will probably be a shitstorm. politically, news, all that stuff. I feel like it's one of those situations, and I'm speaking metaphorically, but whoever wins, we lose. I don't know. I don't know. Just, I'm not ready to go through 2020 again. Just not. But some things are becoming painfully obvious about the civilization we live in now versus the civilization I grew up in. And it's not an American problem, it's a global one. But that's kind of something that I have thoughts in the back of my head. Again, probably a good time when I'm out at the cabin, relaxing. I just, you know how it is when you're forming a thought, an idea, but it's not quite, the pieces have not come together yet. But I feel like there's something. Don't know. Something. Anywho, the gun roll's been kind of interesting. I picked up that early Russian AKM from Atlantic. Kind of like it. Picked up that SIG MCX Spear, and despite myself really liking it too, I don't know what else is coming. I hope not much, because I don't need to be keeping much. In fact, I went out to the gun room the other day and found a couple of things I'm ready to sell. That's, again, kind of the back of my brain. Usually when I know I need to sell guns, and this is, again, for cabin stuff, I have some ideas, some candidates in the back of my head, I think of. And then I kind of push them to the back of my head. And I'll go out and look at those potential guns, 3 or 4 times over a few days or a week or a month, whatever it takes. And then typically, one time I go look at them, I'll pick one up and either be like, all right, yeah, that can go. Or I'll just pick it up and go, nah. No, there's something else I can sell instead. That's how my Valmet M78 was. I really had no desire to sell it, and thought, well, that'd be a good one to sell. But I wasn't ready. And then when I sold it, and I'll be honest with you, I haven't looked back. I haven't had a regret. It is good just to sometimes let the back part of your head mull things over, chew things over a bit. A couple of candidates. I've had 2 World War II 1911A1s, a Remington Rand and an Ithaca. I've pretty much figured I'd sell one day. And I think that's about now, if I can get a decent price. And even though the Ithaca has less finish, more wear and tear on it compared with the Remington, I'm really leaning towards selling the Remington and keeping the Ithaca. I think because, one thing, I like Ithaca as a brand, and for another, I can't really know for sure, but I think the Ithaca has its World War II phosphate finish. The Remington Rand is definitely a 1950s re-arsenal, and that's perfectly fine, because those definitely saw service in Vietnam and elsewhere. It's a really good representation of a A1, but I really don't need both. There's not a huge difference. Kind of along similar lines, it's about time to sell another P38. Back when Volter P38s were pretty affordable, I ended up with quite a nice little study collection. I had probably a dozen, a mix of Mauser, Spreework, and Walther, about 4 and 4. Over the years, though, as the prices went up and people asked, I sold off all the spree work. The only one I kind of regretted was I had a really late one with some really cool machine cross-hatching on it and everything, but oh well. I had an early one too, but it wasn't as interesting. And I've sold most of my Mausers as well. I had an early 43, had a dual tone, but actually the one Mauser I kept, it was just too interesting to me, was the French so-called Grey Ghost with the phosphate finish and the metal grips. That one's just too neato. And again, those really saw a lot of service in Indochina and the French, because up until the MAC 1950, the MAC 50, France didn't really have a great standard service gun. The 35s, A or S, were in 7.65 long, accurate little cartridge, smooth shooting, but not the most powerful. So even going to 9mm was an improvement. So for quite a while, especially like the Foreign Legion, they used the P38, the MLE 1938 or 1946. I've seen both names used. That's because France, after World War II, ended up with occupying the Obendorf factory, and they kept the workers working. They had them building P38s for over half a year, from May of 45 well into 46, so I guess more than half a year. But according to the Four Powers Treaty, that was illegal. So once the Soviets kicked up a fuss, the French had to shut it down. But before they did, they actually took all the spare parts and whatever tooling wasn't nailed down, and actually did one final run of a few hundred outside of Paris, France, around 1951. And those are mostly for police. But then, of course, you have Manurhin in France that made P38s/P1s at that point, alloy frame, PPs, PPKs, under license with an agreement with Fritz Walter, because at the time he had his business. Walter moved from Zella-Mellis to Ulm, Germany, east to west, because that's a good move. But he couldn't make guns yet. He could make business machines, typewriters, that kind of things. It wasn't very long. Already by 1954, 55, things were changing in Germany, West Germany. But 51, 52, that agreement was worked with Manurhin, and they would keep building guns into the 80s. But yeah, they actually made some P38/P1s for West German police. It's kind of neat. And so I ended up getting one of those from a buddy a few years ago. I thought about it, but I only have one other alloy frame P1, and it's a later style with the fat slide. So having an early style slim slide and all that, it's kind of neat. And they're not bringing crazy money right now, so yeah, I'm decided to sell one of my 3 remaining World War II Walthers. I've got a 41, a 43, and a 45. Of those, the 43 is the one I'll sell, and it should do pretty well. It's a matching gun, non-import marked, and it's got those kind of red brick grips that a certain type of collector really loves. It hasn't been reblued or anything, so I decided that could go. Yeah, I'm gonna have to find some other stuff to go. What I really need to sell are some AKs, but 2 problems with that. One, I'm not there yet. Right now, I've got a pretty good set of AKs from all the Comblock nations. If I start pillaging, it breaks sets up, and then, yeah, I don't know. And 2, AKs aren't bringing crazy money right now. Now, some of your historic ones are. I found that East German parts kit out in the storage building I told you about. that brought really good money, so I really shouldn't look for parts kits stuck around here instead of AKs. It almost seems like parts kits bring more money than built up AKs, as funny as that is. I even had a fleeting thought, what if I sold my East German AK that I built from one of the same kits? I could. I'm not there yet. I don't know, but I have time. I have time. I need to pare that down. I even considered selling my Colt LMG. It's the upper on a semi-automatic lower. My only reason for that is it's a really cool gun and one I really like, but it's not really military, at least not successfully. So my reason for having it from my collection is pretty thin. I don't know. It's a possibility. So I picked a total of 3 to sell. And I've got with those selling, I'm going to have another few. That's what my gun collection can be. I've never been one of those people that say, oh, I never sell a gun. Poof. Things come and go. But, one thing that's funny is I have 2 finished Lottie L35 pistols. And I don't need 2. No one needs 2. I can't make myself sell either one of them because each have things to recommend them. The early one, which is a late first run, so it would have been probably made right at the tail end of the Winter War. It is super cool. It saw service. It's got all the early features, but it has a small import mark on the underside under the trigger guard little cutout. It's not bad. It definitely wouldn't dissuade me from getting one. It's a little Century Arms, probably came in way back in the day. But it is a thing. The other one, no import mark, and it's a 1960s reslide. The original slides often got replaced because of fatiguing. So in the 60s, they contracted out replacements, and they're actually pretty cool. They have a different finish. They kind of have a plum brown color. They don't have the loaded chamber indicator. And that gun, at least originally, the frame was from the 3rd production run or early 4th. I can't remember. But they're different. And I really like finished military guns. But, if needs must, pay for an air conditioner, that kind of thing. What can you do? I even considered selling my SIG 751 Sapper, but I don't think so. Again, needs must. If it gets down to that or not paying bills, I will, but I don't have many modern 308s, and I really do enjoy shooting that one. Another one I pulled out and kind of did the opposite and said, nah, it's staying, is the Cruiser pistol, the HK Mark 23 Motto. I have no reason to own that gun. I don't shoot 45 much. It's ridiculous. I've got small hands. It is not meant for small-handed people. I never have gotten around to getting the suppressor for it. I do not need that gun. There is no logical, objectively good reason for me to have that gun. And I fucking love it. It is so stupid that it's cool. And I think it's one of those guns, if I sold it, I would miss it. And again, kind of like with 308s, I don't have many 45s. In fact, the only 2 modern 45s I own are the Colt M45A1, which I will not sell, and that Mark 23. So, yeah, that one's getting back on the shelf. Yeah, I mean, this is just kind of like, well, I can't say I enjoy selling guns, but it does give you a satisfaction of making sacrifice sometime. I should go back and look at my bolt actions. I've already sold a couple of my Mosins, just, duplicate 9130s, a spare M44 carbine I had. Nothing crazy. But I probably have an extra K98 Mauser or 2 I mean, all my guns are different. I don't ever have two of the exact same gun. That would never work. If I end up with two of the same gun, I will evaluate which one I like better and then sell the other one, and that's fine. The only time I make a slight exception for that is with Japanese, and even then, I try to have only the guns that have differences. For example, T-38 rifles. I have two. Long rifles, you know. One's in early production, flat butt plate, unprotected front sight, all the differences in between. One's a late production, cupped butt plate, protected front sight, and all the differences in between. I like that progression. And Japanese have a special place, kind of almost an exempt place. I don't really want to sell them. I did actually sell that weird Type 94 I picked up about 5 years ago from a collector that had the wood grips. Now, yes, I know late 44 and 45 guns had wood grips. The problem was that was the 1943 gun. The other problem was the wood grips actually looked really good and fit really well. In fact, the gentleman I sold it to got it, and he can't figure it out either. It's easy. You would just want to say, oh, they're aftermarket grips, they're replacements. But it's strange. Maybe, and this is maybe my best guess, is the officer who got it, because remember, those could be private purchase guns. Maybe he was a woodworker and he carved them, because they're very nice grips that are carved to fit that gun. And they don't have any manufacturer's marks or any signs of being, made aftermarket, any branding or any things like that. I don't know. And unfortunately, I did talk to the original owner and even the guy he got it from, and we traced it back to the 1980s at a gun show where that guy got it from, and that's where the trail went cold. All I can say is the wood grips were on it when the two guys before me got it, and now I'm just another person in that chain. That's the reason I hung on to it. It was just because it was weird, and I wanted to see if I could figure it out. Oh well. But see, guys, this is why I make gun videos to suit me. I'm still passionate about it. I still enjoy it. But if I made short, snappy, 10-minute videos with rock and roll music playing and lots of bang, 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 and only one paragraph of information about the gun, I wouldn't watch my own videos. That is not. It's all. There's no substance. It's all flash, all pizzazz, no substance type video making. And again, other people do that. Trying to imitate other people is not who I am. I am me. For better or worse. Often worse, but, I can be the best me. That's all I can do. Been doing a little spring cleaning this past week. Just had a box of packing peanuts burst open in my gun room, my workroom a couple of years ago. And even though I swept up like the majority, you know how packing peanuts are. They stick to things, they break up. So like under the couch in there and under a lot of things were just old broken up packing peanuts. So finally kind of just went in and swept that all up underneath, moved things around. Found some old parts and stuff, put them up on Gunbroker. Someone might need them. Just, you work with guns and gun parts long enough, stuff just kind of accumulates in corners, bags break open, things get kicked around. It just happens. And then of course boxes get stacked on boxes, and I've got a lot of those plastic totes full of things. You forget you have stuff. You stick something back for a customer, and then they don't end up buying it, or something comes in and you never get around to putting it up. That's okay. I mean, not like they eat. And sometimes you just sit on stuff long enough, again, like that East Sherman parts kit, and it's worth it. It's better than money in the bank and a lot more fun. I'm not super high up on banks, I'll be honest. Oh well. No real family news. Can't remember if I told you in the last Blackbox, but Seamus the cat got sick again. His usual thing of not peeing. Every couple of years he goes to this thing where he can't pee and then he strains, and then we have to get him laxants and antibiotics if his bladder gets infected. Luckily the infection was very mild this time because we got it early. But we've been having to shove 5 or 6 pills a day down him twice a day. Well, I mean, like 3 and 3, not like a dozen. But he's gotten where he really is not a fan of when he sees the signs of that coming. But we're almost to the end of the pills, or at least some of them. It's whatever. It's just cats. He's about 10 years old now, so. After losing Foxy about 3 months ago, about 3 months. Yeah, I guess 3 months. Yeah, because it's technically May now, isn't it? Geesh. I don't want to lose another one yet. We've also decided we're not gonna go out to the shelter and find another kitten or even adult cat yet. If someone shows up in our yard needing a home, okay. But I'm gonna spend time with Miss Hobo while we still have her. She's doing really good for her age, but you can definitely tell she's getting old. We don't know how old she is. When she showed up here, I told you the story, but just to repeat, I was sitting on this swinging on this porch, and it was when my wife was gone visiting her folks, and I was probably out eating lunch or something. It was about midday, and I heard meowing, and I thought it was Seamus, the one who strains to pee, because he has a propensity to go outside, and I thought with my wife gone, maybe he went out looking for her, and I thought, well, I gotta get him back in, and he's a very talkative cat, so that, sounds like him. So I went over and picked him up and found out real quick, this is not my cat. And with the cat meowing, meow, 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 and getting more hysterical, I thought, I'm about to have my face clawed off. And even though she definitely talked, she didn't scratch me even the littlest bit. And she never has. And that was back 2016. She'll talk a storm. But I realized as I got to know her, it's not an aggressive type talking. It's just some cats are talkative. So J-Ro and I were out hanging out on the porch. He had come over that evening and have dinner with me, and we were eating curry, sitting outside talking, and gave her some. She showed back up and gave her some morsels. And for a few months, she was mostly an outside cat. Then it got colder. And then she was kind of coming inside, outside. She'd meow, let me know her. But then she became an inside cat. I finally took her to the vet that December when it was pretty clear she was my cat. And they didn't know how old she was. They gave a rough estimate of 8 to 12 years then, back 8 years ago. She was definitely someone's house cat. She'd already been spayed. And it had been done quite some time ago because it was done with a scalpel, not a laser. And in this town, no one's done scalpel spadings in a while. So these days, I don't think she was 12 then. That'd make her 20 now. But she could have been on the 8 end of things. So she's got to be at least 16 or 18 now. I've had a cat live to be 20, nearly 21 before. That's my record. And that cat was a female, and she stayed in really good health right up to the end. We didn't have any major problems with her. Her name was Ewok, by the way. But yeah, I can tell Hobo. She's really doing well. She moves pretty good and follows me around and still talks to me, but she's getting thinner. And she eats good. She's not skin and bones, but, on the edges, she's getting a little more knobbly. And her fur's getting a little thin, she's not balding with bald patches. It's just overall evenly getting just thinner. And she's already a gray cat, so I can't say if she's been graying, but yeah, she's around me a lot and follows me and talks to me. So between her and Peanut, I don't really have time. I'm gonna I'm going to spend time with Hobo for whatever time we've got. And then once she, goes to rest after a while, maybe we'll think about getting a little sister for Peanut. She'll love that. But not for now. It's just, life's too busy, and it's not honest to get an animal if you know you don't have enough time for them. Odie's doing well, though. He's the one we got coming up on 2 years ago. He's growing. Well, he's pretty much full grown now. He's mischievous, but he's loving. Like most male cats, he's just a goofball. He beats up Earl, which is hilarious, but he's not to people. He likes to sleep with you. He'll curl up in your arm. But, yeah, he's our youngest. We got him when Oscar passed away. He came in with a litter of 3, and his 2 litter mates were taken, and he was all alone in his cage. And that's actually what happened to Oscar back when we got him in 2013. Is he showed up in our front yard with his 2 litter mates, and they went away or something after just a couple of days, and then he was all alone, so I brought him in because he seemed lonely. So that's kind of the thing. We take the animals that no one else seems to want, and you know what? We seem like we get the best picks. I don't know. Just kind of take what comes to us instead of trying to force it. So yeah, probably no plans for new animals. What else, guys? What else? Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, did that video looking at the McFarlane Dune. And that's probably a topic really for its own Blackbox video, but I did enjoy the Dune Part 2 from March. Was it March when it came out? A couple months ago. Anywho, I don't remember if I read the book or saw the David Lynch film first. They were close. I want to say it was probably the book, only because we didn't get a TV channel that would have carried the David Lynch film when I was a kid. And I would have been too young to go to that kind of film in 1984. I was, Star Wars is one thing, but that was a bit of an odd one. So yeah, I didn't see it in the theaters, I know. I might have caught it on some cable rerun when I was little, but I don't remember. But I remember reading the book several times. But, yeah, it's one of those books that every time I read it at different stages in life, I pick up on all the different things. And I actually read all of them. The 6, the real ones anyway, and all the other stuff. What's funny is I really don't mind Kevin J. Anderson. I've read some of his other works, and he's not my favorite sci-fi author, far from it. I like Peter Hamilton a lot more. Neil Stephenson, I like him quite a bit. But, good God. It's late. Hyperion, Dan Simmons, there we go. I like Dan Simmons. My wife and I are a little disagreement. He did some stuff she didn't like. I thought he was good. He did that one book that got a little political that upset some people, but I thought it was really good. But heaven forbid someone criticized the Obama administration, right? Anywho, I like Dan Simmons. But, yeah, Kevin J. Anderson's fine. So I don't really know why the new Dune books are so bleh. And I don't really care if Brian and Anderson's prequels are what they are. They're their own things. My only real gripe was Dune 7, as it was known for years. It is a kick in the nuts that Frank Herbert didn't finish the Dune trilogy. It's kind of, I liked how he did it. He had 3 that were a trilogy, then he had a bridge book, which was basically just navel gazing of a worm god, which is fun. And then he was going to do a second trilogy. And I actually really like books 5 and 6. I know it's kind of controversial, but you just kind of had to take them as their own thing. But like Miles Tegg and the Duncan Golas and even the Benny J, it was fun. It was more character driven and had more humor. I know that's really funny to say when you have sex witches literally nuking planets, but he was in that stage of he was a dirty old man that didn't give two fucks in the best possible way. Plus, there's no way him and his wife weren't having like old person tantric sex until she passed. Like, you know they were. And attaboy, good on him. It's just sad and I don't blame him. I mean, it wasn't like he was doing this trilogy in his 80s. He was 65 when he died. He deserved at least another good decade to get stoned off his ass, because there's no way that man wrote those books. Look, I'm just gonna be straight. I've tripped on mushrooms. I've done LSD. Whatever. Fuck you. It was not you guys, right place. It was 20 some odd years ago. Whatever. Either way, takes one to know one. He was definitely on stuff when he did that. And you could almost say which substance he was on based on the attitude. But hey, whatever. But it's a shame he didn't do it, because I think he was really going somewhere cool. That's the one thing about Frank Herbert. His ideas, his intellect, really good. Arthur C. Clarke was like that too, and Asimov. I'm really happy that I haven't actually watched the Foundation series. Maybe one day I will, but I'm happy at least people realize, because I read all the Foundation books, and I really enjoyed them. And they were like a history of the future. But either way, he had some good. Just those giants. They had brains, even if their characters were not all that great sometimes, even if their dialogue was a little stilted, their ideas, their originality, their personalities shone through. And Herbert was kind of right there amongst them. And so he could have ended the second trilogy unlike anyone else. And I don't know. If it had been any other series, the last two books, Hunters of Dune and Sandworms of Dune, were fine. They were not the worst thing. Okay, when I think of like bad writing, Terry Goodkind. I'm sorry if you like him. I've obviously read him, so no shade there. I kind of had to read him because I got stuck in a place and that was the only books I had. And, well, bad books are better than no books. But either way, that's bad writing. I don't exactly consider the later Dune books bad. They're just kind of pulp fiction. And that's okay. Except when it's trying to finish up Frank Herbert's work. Again, the prequels, that stuff, the secondary material, I don't care. It's fine. I have enjoyed a few like Paul of Dune. It's fine. But at least we have an ending. It's not the ending we want. Now, the flip side of that is actually Wheel of Time. And it occurs to me, all these book series and sci-fi and fantasy, they're all being made into TV shows and movies now. And some of them are pretty good. There's even that Fallout series. It's on Amazon that I'm planning on watching. And it's been on my list. And then an old friend that I've known for literally 40 years told me I should watch it. So, yeah, I probably will. Why not? Anyway, not the Wheel of Time series. No, I read the books. And when he died, before finishing it, it was kind of a bummer. But, I'll be honest, the way it was concluded was masterful. That's the way to follow on someone's notes and everything and do it right. So I was not at all disappointed in the last, 2 or 3 that finished out the Wheel of Time. In fact, I remember when I read the final book, the ending actually gave me chills. In a good way. I really enjoyed it. After that series, literally reading it for 20 years of my life, to have a good conclusion. Same thing goes for Stephen King's The Dark Tower. I liked book 7, and I loved the ending to Dark Tower. I thought it was the perfect way to end that series. I know it's controversial, but hey, of course that was Stephen King ending his own work. A little different, but it's nice to have that, especially something you've lived with your whole life. But those series had things to say. And I just feel like maybe Brian Herbert just, even if he had some notes from his dad, he didn't really know what he was. Brian Herbert hasn't done enough drugs, okay? That's the problem. He didn't follow in his father's footsteps. He might have done coke or shit. That's the stuff that was in the 80s. No. You needed like 60s level LSD to write like Frank Herbert. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying I'd want to do that either. Jesus Christ, no. I survived my teenage years, and I don't want to go back, thanks. So, not faulting the guy for not doing it. I'm just trying to explain why it doesn't come off as genuine to that series. But yeah, sci-fi, fantasy, or kind of the mix of, it has kind of made a pretty good comeback the last few years. And that makes me happy, because it's always been kind of my favorite genre. Fantasy's okay, but if I'm going to do it, I like fantasy verging on sci-fi. I don't like pure, like, that's not the right word. I've read Tolkien. I enjoy Tolkien. But it's not my personal touchstone. It's enjoyable without being deeply influential to me. And I think I figured out why. Tolkien was a religious person. Frank Herbert started off as religious and then grew past it. And that's the story of my own life. I'm not one of those people that hates religion. I don't feel like I ever rejected religion. I was born and raised Methodist and was very active in my church's youth group and did Bible studies and read the Bible every day voluntarily. I mean, I enjoyed it. In fact, some thought I might become a preacher or in the priesthood of some way. And I'm not ashamed of that. But I feel like somewhere along the way, I outgrew the narrow strictures of orthodoxy. Does that make sense? I would still say I'm a religious person in a certain sense, but in my different way. Because, well, not to get into theology, but whatever God, whatever creator is out there is so big and wonderful and unknowable to humans that try to say you can say everything there is to say about him in one book. Dude, you're talking about someone that you say created the entire universe. Not the world, not the solar system, not the galaxy, the universe. I'm pretty sure he's a little more complicated. Pretty sure his biopic would be more than a little book. And I'm not saying that in a mocking way, but you know what I mean? I just felt like I grew past it, and I'm still growing, and I'm still going into different things. And I think that's where Frank Herbert ended up. Again, 60s level acid, it'll do weird things to your brain. You can end up with like Sid Barrett, or you can end up like Frank Herbert, Timothy Leary, whatever, or Charles Manson. Yeah, not saying it always works out good. Sometimes it works out really bad. But I can almost say that stuff will change you forever. And maybe it's just fundamentally who we are, what kind of person we are deep down. Because once we open some doors, they can't be closed again. So in conclusion, that's why I like Dune. It makes you think. In fact, if you read the books, especially the first cut, there's not really a lot of war in them, a lot of combat scenes. I mean, most combat in Dune in the books happens off screen. Even the jihad happens off screen. Because that's not the point. It's not a war book. It's kind of interesting, especially considering they were written, especially the first book and the second, during the Vietnam era. So they very easily could have been. Now, of course, he had things to say about Middle East combat. Yeah, one day I'll do a video on that. I think it'll be good. But, yeah, I'm enjoying kind of the Renaissance. I'm looking forward to the Rendezvous with Rama movie. The first book was very good, very thought-provoking. But that's one, when Clark revisited it with his co-author, it actually got better. Now, it lost some of the hard-nosed sci-fi, for sure, but it became very character-driven. And if you've never read the Rama books, especially the series through and through, absolutely do it. It's a roller coaster, but if the ending doesn't make you feel something, you're absolutely dead inside. It is an extremely poignant ending. I'm not saying in all the books that every single chapter is gold, but I'm going to say the payoff at the end is incredibly worth it, in my opinion. But I'm right. Yeah, I like books. I used to travel quite a bit, so I had time to read. And before the internet was everywhere, and before life was 90 miles a minute, 24/7, we actually had time to read books and listen to albums through and through. I told you when I was out at the cabin last and didn't have internet that one night, I actually listened to an album front to back for the first time in I don't know how many years. And I used to do that every evening. I'd pick a CD and put it in the player, the old school, and listen to the thing, and almost always the whole album. If I tried to block off about an hour, and that was kind of my relaxing and centering myself time. And I'd go through phases, but I'd cycle through various things. But when MP3s came around, and I first started doing MP3s in 1998, so pretty early adopter of them. Or was it 97? I think it was 90. I remember it was right when the zip drives came out, because finally we had something big enough that was easily writable to put MP3s on and transfer them from kid to kid at school. Because burning CDs, for one thing, CDRs were too expensive and you could only write them so many. But zip drives were the thing, and you couldn't fit any decent MP3s on a 1.44 meg floppy. Anywho, so I'm not dogging on MP3s, they're great. But as our listening habits changed, it went from listening to an album to only listening to your favorite songs on an album to just having a mixed playlist. Even if you might sit down and listen to music for an hour, it was more like listening to a radio than it was a piece of art. And there are certain musicians, Queen comes to mind, of course Pink Floyd, I mean there's lots of concept albums, but some of them really need to be listened through front to back. I know this isn't the one that goes to a lot of people's mind, but it's probably my favorite Pink Floyd, even though I like pretty much all of it, even the crazy Sid Barrett stuff. But Wish You Were Here, I think, is, if you just said I can only have one Pink Floyd, it would probably be that. And it's only 5 tracks, but it's a full length because, you know, they're dense. But even though it's a dense concept album, it still manages to have some pretty great singles on it too. But yeah, I'd say that's definitely in my top 3, if not my absolute favorite. I know Dark Side of the Moon, The Wall, those are the classics. I guess I'm a little weird. Obscured by Clouds, I like that one. I know it's not a strictly speaking proper album. Animal, that's an interesting one, Animals. I don't have them in front of me, but I have to think. Another one I have a hard time picking, David Bowie. I mean, when a celebrity dies, I usually kind of raise a glass to them, you know, hope they had a good life. There's a few, though, that, like, actually made me sad, and David Bowie was one of them. But I will say this, and maybe I'm assuming, it seems like, despite his ups and downs in early life and middle age, it seems like he found peace, happiness, and a family at, you know, his later third of life. And I hope he did. Man deserves it. I mean, yeah. Like me some David Bowie. And, you know, I did the tribute video a year ago. Still really like him, always have. Gary Newman. I need to see what he's up to lately. I haven't checked up on him in a few months, but it seems like he's living his best life, and I really hope he deserves that too. He overcame a lot and has done a lot of joy, and I kind of feel a little bit of a kindred spirit, because in his music he does whatever the fuck he wants, and he didn't care if he didn't make huge commercial success. The few times in the 80s when he tried to go commercially and it didn't work out, he had a lot better luck in life when he just did what his heart wanted. And I respect and kind of understand that. Better to be yourself and barely make enough to pay the bills than to sell out and have all the money, but none of the happiness, none of the fulfillment. And it really shows on his later work when he gets back to form and is making music for him and his family and friends and his fans. Because that's what matters. That's who you need to appease. Anywho, yeah, like I said, haven't posted many videos on here, and haven't done a Blackbox in a minute, so that's what's up. Kind of stream of consciousness, but you've seen me enough on the main Mishaco channel, and now the new one. Kind of ending where I more or less began talking about the YouTube thing. Don't take this the wrong way, but I'm really tired of people seeing conspiracies against them where none exists. Never ascribe to malice what can be attributed to ignorance or stupidity. And that's what it was. It wasn't YouTube maliciously, intentionally going at us. It was a dumb programming glitch, probably outsourced to a third party, you know, lowest bidder agency somewhere overseas. This is bad programming. And I've noticed that a lot, guys. And I say this with all love and respect. Stop this stupid victim mentality. Stop it. Stop wanting to be a victim. And this crosses a lot of political lines, a lot of social lines. But there's a certain group who really want to be perceived as victims out there. And then they act entitled. See? This guy agrees. Then they act entitled to the world owing them something, as if they're owed reparations, compensation. And I do find this personally offensive, because that is a trap that anyone... That was a big enough clap of thunder, my butt shook. And I hadn't had beans tonight. No, that's a trap that anyone with a disability, mental, physical, otherwise, can so easily fall into, especially in our darkest moments. Not faulting you for that weakness, for that temptation, because I have absolutely felt it too. What I'm faulting people for is making it out of nothing because they think it's a good thing. No one who actually is a victim wants to be a victim, because guess what? Being victimized either by life or an accident itself or another human, it hurts. It sucks. It disadvantages us. It is a negative thing. It is a traumatic thing. It can be overcome. It can be dealt with. It can be managed. And you can grow from it. You can become a better human from it. But it is not a desirable thing. It is not a picnic. So people who look for ways to pass themselves off as a victim, that's what bugs me. That's not to say, it's kind of like saying just because you're paranoid doesn't mean they're not actually out to get you. That can be true. I mean, there are definitely groups of people out there that do not like the firearms community, that would like nothing more than to round up every gun in this country and throw it in the smelter. They absolutely exist. But they're not hiding in every bush and every shadow. And it's probably not as big of a group as you think. Most people are somewhere in between. Don't play the victim. If something happens, like with the arm brace situation we had to go through, you fight it. You don't fight it physically, you fight it in court. You fight it with words. You fight it with logic, and see that worked out. Because the ATF's position on that was illogical, and because no one went crazy and did something bad, it all worked out. It won't always work out, guys. We don't live in a world where right always triumphs. But you know what? I'd say more often than not, even if it's 51% versus 49%, the good come out on top. I know people want to argue right now with that. That's just my personal feelings and opinions. And that's me, again, with a disability who's had to rely, trust, depend on people for well over 40 years of his life. I found that most people pretty decent to good. Yes, there are some assholes. Yes, there are some bad people. But I find that they get overshadowed by the decent, good people out there. I mean, you're probably a decent, good person, right? Why assume everyone you don't know, every stranger, be it the stranger down the street or a foreigner in a foreign land, is out to get you? If you're a decent person, if your family are mostly decent people, doesn't it stand to reason the majority of strangers are decent too? Just decent. And it's not just the 2A that gets victimized. It's one community. But you know who else does? You know, LGBTQ, whatever they call it now. Guys, I do not give a fuck who people fuck. None of my business. But I absolutely do not like it when people are mistreated verbally or physically who aren't bothering anyone else. I would say the same thing for gun owners. Us gun owners aren't bothering anyone. Leave us alone. Same thing goes with people who have different sexual preferences. Leave them alone. Leave me alone. That's all both sides. And I'm tired of this immigrant situation too. Is there an issue at the border? Abso-motherfucking-lutely. Are there illegal immigrants that commit crimes? Does a bear shit in the woods? Of course there are. Guess what? Plenty of citizens that commit crimes every day too, because people are people are people. If someone is here legally, I absolutely not only don't have a problem with it, I welcome them. That's the strength of America from its very beginning. The diversity is what keeps the country strong. Keep in mind too, I'm married to someone who immigrated here. Of course, again, we went about it legally. The illegal situation is more complicated. And on the one hand, it does upset me that people break the law. I'm pretty much a law-abiding person, save for the 60s drug use. On the other hand, when it comes down to when I've actually met people that don't have their papers, most of them are just trying to do what's right for their family. They work and they either send their money back home to pay for their family or they pay for their family here. I cannot find it in myself to hate on someone who's just trying to make a better life for their family. I certainly am not going to call them bad things and make their life harder. There's got to be a compromise, a solution in between. I don't know what it is, guys. I say that oftentimes on political matters on this channel. But you know what? I shouldn't know what it is. I'm not paid that. You're not paid that. As citizens, all we need to do is be aware of problems. It should be the people that get paid hundreds of thousands, in some cases millions when you factor in all the deals they do, in DC and our state capitals. That's why they're paid. They're not paid to tell us the problems. They're not paid to only tear down and criticize and take someone to court on the other side. They're paid to defend the country. They're paid to support their citizens, and they're paid to work out problems. If you give me $200,000 a year salary, I promise you, I could sit down and figure out some kind of solution. Money's a good motivator. And there is a solution. This country is founded and has had a history of coming up with solutions to impossible problems and questions. Not always good solutions, but solutions. Manifest Destiny was a fucking thing. He tamed an entire wild continent in a century. Things aside, that was pretty remarkable, and that was definitely dogged determination. And I'm tired of that. I'm tired of the political things. Heck, even when you listen to politicians talk now, a lot of them also bring up victim mentality. Oh, woe is me. Woe is us. Oh, they're persecuting us. Oh, they're doing this. Oh, they're out to get us. Oh, they're, racist. They're bigots. Shut up. You all are millionaires. Whatever small victimhood you might feel, deal with it. I'm around people that are working class. I know someone right now who works 50 hours a week and still can't afford to go to the motherfucking dentist to take care of a tooth he's got cracked. That ain't right. I don't care if someone in Washington, D.C. feels like they're a victim. Boo motherfucking who. Retire. Go to another line of work. Let someone else who actually is a patriot take your job. Because we do have real issues. This country is not perfect. And things aren't going so hot. But what's funny is, these real issues that affect us, most of them, in my opinion, to do with the economy and everything there, that's not what either side is mostly talking about. And they know that. Because if they actually admitted to the real problems, there's going to be some tough conversations and some hurt feelings, and they might lose some votes come November and blah, 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 blah. You know what? Do something for the country. Take one for the team. That's what we need. And in the past, we had some politicians that could do that. They could put their personal best interest and the best interest sometimes of their party aside to do what's right for their citizens and their country. That's called being a patriot, and it should just be what's called being an American. That's how democracies work, and that's why ours is failing. Because at the end of the day, very few people, fewer every year, are willing to just do that. And no one's willing to make short-term sacrifices for long-term gains. Everything has to be instant and immediate and quick. Like if any policy doesn't pay dividends in a few weeks or months, people completely get outraged. Guys, we've been getting ourselves into this hole deeper and deeper and deeper for over 50 years. We're not getting out of it real quick. Not even close. If there's even a way to get out now. I think there's a certain level of, there's definitely a level of arrogance. America has been prosperous for so long, and things have been on the up and up and up for so long. Yeah, you had a few downturns in the 60s, 70s, what have you. You know, 9/11 was tragic. I'm not going to say otherwise. But we've had it so good overall for multiple generations now. I think we just assume that it'll keep going good no matter what we do. As a nation, we've lost sight that sometimes you have to pay the bill. Sometimes you have to pay that tab. Sometimes you have to do maintenance. And if you don't, one day we could all wake up and there's just no power. It's just over. Just because it's been stable, and America, compared to a lot of other nations in the 20th and 21st century, has been stable. It really has. We've had running water. We've had power. But it doesn't come from free. It's not manna from heaven. If we don't start doing infrastructure, maintenance, and updates, if we don't work on the economy, if we don't start treating workers better, if we don't revitalize the middle class, the center cannot hold. Things will fall apart. The middle class is the single most important secret ingredient to post World War II global, not just American, global success. And what's funny, the middle class's growth actually benefited everyone. People below the poverty line had better social welfare. Even the wealthy, believe it or not, did better overall. And that's what we need to get back. And that's what scares me more than any other single thing, is the decreasing buying power, decreasing political capital, decreasing influence, and apparently decreasing importance of America's middle class. Because that's the people that make it go. From doctors who, unless you're like a high-end specialist surgeon, you know, just like your regular family doctor, your good old-fashioned GP. When I was a kid, my doctor actually smoked a pipe. Those guys, yeah, they lived in a nice house, but they didn't have servants. They didn't have multiple resort homes. They were just high-end middle class. But also, you could be a worker who didn't even graduate high school, and if you put in 40 plus maybe 5 or 6 extra overtime at the factory, you could comfortably live in your home. It wouldn't be lavish, but you could do it. Maybe you had a side hustle. A lot of guys I knew did. Like one guy down the street repaired lawnmowers on the weekend to bring in a little extra cash. But that's kind of the two extremes in the middle class. And that lets a society protect its disabled, its elderly, its children, anyone who's disadvantaged. Yeah. These are the things that should be important in November. And these are absolutely the things that aren't being talked about on the news. Of course, I could just take a page out of Frank Herbert's book and just do a lot of acid and mushrooms again and live in the mountains and let you all guys deal with the mess, because it's a big mess. Anywho, I don't know if I'll post many videos on this channel for the next couple of weeks. Again, I'm got a lot going on, but you never know. I get a wild hair up my butt. So that's my little manifesto for tonight. Guess I better pack it in. In all sincerity, I hope everyone's doing well. Believe it or not, I sincerely and truly do care about my fellow citizens. I want people I know, strangers I don't know, people that live down the street, people that live across the world. I have no desire to see anyone suffer. And I don't know why anyone would. We're all humans with hopes and dreams. Mothers and fathers, most of us brothers, sisters, a lot of us children, wives, husbands, concubines, bound concubines to be exact. Why should we wish divisiveness? Why should we only care about our immediate community? Because it spreads out from there. Me and you might agree, we might disagree. That's okay. But there's no reason to bring hatred into it when it doesn't exist. It doesn't need to. We need to bring back polite disagreement, polite discourse, because then we can have compromise. Then we can move forward. Then we can work together. And then maybe all of our lives will be better. Whether someone makes $20,000 a year or 20 million. Because I don't hate on the rich. I don't like that attitude either of I am not a communist, I can promise you that. Nope. One of my really good friends became a multi-millionaire when we became older, and I am very happy for him. Maybe a few days a little jealous, but not in a bad way. No. That's America. That's capitalism. That's how it should work. So don't hate on the rich, but also if you're rich, don't hate on the poor. Don't act like everyone just needs to pull themselves up from their bootstraps. Because a lot of times, like my friend who can't even go to the dentist, he's working his butt off and applying for new jobs every week in case something's better. Sometimes life just doesn't catch a break. Sometimes you get behind and you can't get ahead. And no matter how much you work and plan, it's not enough. Other times I've known people that just fall into it, and barely work 20 hours a week. So don't blame people that are different from you. Don't assume every stranger is malicious. Don't assume that every foreigner is a criminal. Most of them, they're like you, they're like me. Please remember that as this year goes on and both sides start up their rhetoric in earnest. Please. Let's not let things get so mean and hateful and vitriolic like they did last time. On both sides. Again, I get so frustrated. Hardly can turn on any kind of news now. And news in air quotes. No, I think instead I'll go watch that Fallout series my friend was telling me I should check out. That seems like a better use of 8 or 9 hours of my life than watching Fox or CNN. I suggest you do the same. I've had a few friends that cut out either news in their life. One liberal, one conservative. And both of them, after a few months, reported they were just a lot happier and no worse for wear. So, again, sincere best wishes to you all. And, yeah, try to find the joy in life, even if it's just a simple pleasure of a good mixed drink or tasty hamburger. Because sometimes that's all we have. The big things are what they are. It's a shame I'm not high or anything. Maybe this could actually be a profound video. This is just me sitting on the porch. Hadn't even had a drop of liquor, much less anything else in weeks. Although I do love the sound of the rain.